Hey there everybody, Seija here. Beautiful rainy day down here in Southern Oregon. And we got some fresh roots in the lab today, which I'm really excited about. Love the fall time season because of root harvest. And for me, there's something about harvesting roots, preparing roots into medicine that I always really appreciate, kind of that turning of the seasons, turning into this more yin phase of the seasons, and working with these roots I always just really love. And one of my favorite roots came in today, which is the red root, which is a different red root than we're actually used to working with. The one when we were living in Washington, we worked with a very particular species of red root, Ceanothus velutinus. Down here in Southern Oregon, there's a different species that would be the Ceanothus cuneatus, which is a little bit of a different species, though they're used pretty much interchangeably in terms of Western herbalism. So here's some of the red root here. I don't know if we can maybe zoom up on some of the root materials there. So you see, like, some of the roots themselves are quite red and pink in color, hence the name red root. But one of the things that we notice about the red root is, in terms of its, especially like in terms of its astrological significance, this is one of our best Saturnian remedies. And one of the things that there's a lot of signatures of Saturn in red root, and I think it's a great plant to illustrate this doctrine of correspondence and the relationships between plants and kind of these more energetic forces. And so the whole thing with Saturn is that it's the condensing, contracting quality of the planets, right? It's down and in its energetic quality, and it kind of compacts, contracts, and constricts and tightens and reduces things down, right? So it's kind of that manifestation current, that crystallizing and materializing force, right? It's like, the way I think of Saturn is it's right on the boundary of our solar system, of our visible solar system. And so Saturn is like this big funnel that grabs all of the invisible kind of spiritual influences in the cosmos and then pulses them down and ultimately creates that into physical material. And so red root's really interesting in the way it embodies that Saturnian force, because it's it's a very strong astringent plant, right? It brings tissues together. It tightens and tonifies and kind of puckers the tissues up. And in that way, it's used to treat kind of damp, relaxed tissues that are kind of that don't have much structural tone to them, and that red root kind of astringes and brings more tone and structure to tissues that have become kind of apathetic and weak, and they're leaking fluids, and you're seeing congestion of fluids, primarily in the lymphatic system. So you see, red root's a great lymphagogue remedy in the way it works on the internal waters of the body, and then especially in the way that it has a strong affinity for the spleen. And in my studies in herbalism, I haven't really found too many herbs with a direct affinity for the spleen. And I'm talking about the physical spleen, not the Chinese spleen, which is a little bit of a different quality there. But red root has this very strong affinity for the physical spleen. And in medical astrology, the spleen's ruled by Saturn. So there's another really interesting dynamic there in terms of the organ affinity, the action, the taste of red root that relate it to Saturn. Another way that we see that the red root really relates to Saturn too is that after the root is harvested, that the root actually kind of condenses in on itself really rapidly. So, I mean, these roots literally almost turn to stone. They get so hard and condensed that you can't even really cut it with like a pair of clippers or even with a saw. You usually have to use like a wood chipper or a bandsaw or something to process it down. And that's why the root material that we have here, our good friends James and Kari over there in Williams, Oregon, Nature Spirit Herbs, harvested all this red root fresh for us, but then they processed it down right away and ran it through a chipper to get it down to a size that we can tincture really nicely, and before it condenses in and basically turns into a rock. So it's another interesting dynamic with the red root, and another signature of Saturn, that it condenses in on itself and turns very hard. Saturn rules everything that's hardness, and that's also why this fresh plant material has already been processed in that way. The red color of the root tends to relate to the Muladhara chakra, which is that root chakra, that red colored chakra at the base of the spine, which again is all about kind of that material, physical level of our energetic organism and just life in general. So that red color relating to the root chakra and that grounding, manifesting force really relates to the red root as well. And then kind of the way it's used in terms of constitutions, it tends to be used for kind of that opposite quality of Saturn, which would be like a Jupiter constitution. People that maybe tend to be a little bit on the larger side constitutionally, maybe they tend more towards dampness and heat and kind of stagnation patterns in their tissues. That red root's going to really help to detoxify the blood and the lymph and the skin, tighten up and astringe and dry out loose and kind of watery tissues, and essentially open up those channels of elimination to help cleanse the system there. So anyways, just wanted to share a little bit about red root, just kind of rapping with you about it. It's off the top of my head what I can think of about red root. Of course, there's always so much more to share about it, but just wanted to shoot a little video on the red root here. We've got a couple other roots here I want to talk about as well. And also, if you haven't seen yet, just so you know, I am currently running a 50% off sale on our Elemental Herbalism audio program, as well as the Herbalism online program. That sale is going to be happening until this Sunday. So I'll put a link underneath the video here so you can go check that out. This is a super killer deal. I've never put these programs on sale like this before. So if you're interested in doing any studies and with our programs, now's a really great time. So anyways, thanks so much everyone. Take care and be well.